Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojú
Ashen
ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Ashen's the Ashen Forge.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin. How's it going?
Great.
Going well. The announcement, everybody. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's only a limited number of months by which they must release. Otherwise, I don't actually think they're actually committed to anything from a marketing perspective that they can't actually push back from 2024. But at the same time, if they don't do 2024, now everyone will come out crawling from the woodwork going, vaporware, vaporware. Everything we've seen is a fake demo. Vaporware, vaporware. Which is not the case. But
They say
I
that
don't
now.
think it's going to take till December of next year to get the Alpha 2 started.
There's always been a limited number of months.
Well, no, there isn't, because the project could always not come out.
But still,
Stars with it.
So
Yeah.
that's well, no, not even like in a perpetual sort of thing, like Warframe. Oh yeah, 10 years of beta and still going, baby.
They still in beta?
It's just, I think they're finally ready to call it not beta once full cross-platform, iOS, Android, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, desktops. Maybe they'll even get Macs and Linux at some point. Who knows? Like, that thing's everywhere now. The Switch, even, that was a big deal. The entire engine got a giant optimization pass from that. Yeah, it's it still, I believe, calls itself a beta. I don't believe it's finally called itself in a released state, which is hilarious to me.
mhm.
Well, this was definitely what seemed coming after Nodes, which was sort of a big, the things
Yeah.
we've seen have been big. This seemed like it was going to be sort of a kind of, world events. How cool will that be? And
Yeah.
this turns into actually not a bad stream. It was shorter, which I think people appreciated the change a little bit and how it was presented. And of course, the Alpha 2 announcement, which I assume ties into this whole thing. They talked about passing a milestone this last week and bringing people in to. Clearly, they've passed something where they feel very comfortable announcing this. So I feel like we should talk about that before we even get to the event system. Of course, the big question being, where are we betting Alpha 2 to be?
I've been saying June. Now, I could be wrong in all sorts of ways, but my guess is you get back from the December break, everybody gets back up and rolling. Anything from Unreal 5.3 that they might still need to put a bow on or whatever, if they're even doing that before Alpha 3, they'll get all of that done. And then they'll want to start it when they'll be able to have the highest amount of activity, and likewise when they'll definitely be able to have the team like up and on and ready and cooking. So, the summer is a great time for that. Everybody that's a student or has, priorities that kind of ease up in the summertime, they're going to be able to jump in and have a great old time. So that's going to be great. And then logistically, when we get closer to like October, November, December, when the holidays start coming around a little bit more and things start getting a little bit more crunched at the studio, the population will have dropped off a bit. Yeah, there'll be players that have continued with it. There'll be, players that play a bit and drop it, and then they see their buddies playing, and it's like, oh yeah, let's get in. They haven't been wiping like for the past 2 weeks, bro. Come on in, jump in. It's like, all right, and so you get some people come back in a little bit. But it's definitely, I think that they want to make sure by the end of the year the population's kind of leveled out a little bit, so that way as they ease into the next year, they can kind of let things be a little bit cool. And when January rolls around, they come back through with like the next major update. They drop like 2 classes that hadn't been available yet, or like some archetypes that weren't available yet or something. And then suddenly everybody's coming back, or, one of the systems got a new enhancement, or, they just added 100 new recipes, whatever it could be. 50 new events got added. The one I joked about in chat, and definitely seems like something this predicate system would be able to support. Now, I don't know how like specific in the minutia and stuff you could get, but the whole idea of like, the setup for a joke, 3 rogues walk into a bar, the bartender asks them, whatever, the first one says this, second one says this, third one says this, and, haha, funny, but then, there's a NPC, this one of the patrons is just sitting there laughing, and then, if you go engage with them, and you talk to them in like a funny sort of way, or a interesting sort of way, not just, hey, what are you laughing about, jerk? They actually reveal some sort of quest, and that gets you on some sort of a storyline hook. So, the story arcs are going to be an interesting thing, and how they use events to get people on track with them in different ways is going to be very interesting. But, all of that stuff, it sounds like they've got hooked up in a way that they were actually confident enough to talk about here, which is a major thing, because if they keep on saying content is the biggest factor in being able to, get into alpha, and, eventually when we get towards the end of things to be able to launch the game, just content that players won't just churn through. Being able to have the content system and the world system all, the quote predicate system, all up and running, I think is a major hurdle and a major part that now that they know they've got it and it's proven that, and how it interfaces with the node system and building and all, they've got a lot more of the foundations of what the game is really built on up and running and testable now. So, it definitely seems to me like there's enough stuff working well enough that they can start having some confidence in when they're going to bring people in finally.
Yeah, well, just in terms of what they've said they're hoping to demo, we've got 2 more nodes demos, and then I think the quickest scenario is going to be showing us 2 primary archetypes per month, right? I think they need to show us at least 6, if not 7. So, right. So we're talking that would push us to March, and we're probably going to have some other stuff. I really hope that we see an augments demo sometime. Right. So I don't even know how they're going to do that, but is that going to be one demo of all the augments, or we're going to get a couple of, they're going to split them up so we see more than one demo for augments? I would love to see that. I noticed we didn't see that. It didn't seem like we saw any augments in the in this live stream.
This one didn't seem like it wanted to talk about augments. Yeah.
Well, even show them. I don't have to talk about them.
Yeah. No, I agree. They definitely. I think they'll get more into the augments on both the macro and micro levels, like the minutia of a player build, as well as how bigger things like caravans and other events will be conducted. Those will probably happen later on, but I got the feeling from this one that it was going to be kind of limited in what they were showing. I actually like the combat that they showed, though. It gave me a bit better idea of what kind of gameplay is going to be like a little more. With a little bit better management, I think the battle could have gone a lot better.
So I was actually with Alpha 2. I was trying to, I just started. I'm not finished. So my thought on all of this is, yeah, it's so similar kind of with some of what you said, but like, all right, so we have 2024. They're not going to do December, not going to do November, because Steven's not that kind of person. They have an attrition rate of what, 3.6% is what Maggie said.
So it was 3.4, 3.6, yeah.
So clearly they treat their employees very well. And so I don't think he would, knowing that no matter what they do, things will go to hell, probably the first, few weeks. They would not do that to their people. So I'm set on October, and so I did start trying to add up where he has said, showcase, we're going to showcase this, you're going to see that. I've only found 4 things so far, specifically referenced, which was active blocking fighter class, the fighter class, the caravans, and crafting. That leaves a whole lot of other stuff. So
sounds like boats are next week. There was some hint about things on the Riverlands and river-related stuff. So I think we might be seeing naval combat or naval transport in general next time, which if we're seeing that, that means we aren't seeing something else.
Well, Nara Splendid says, I think there's no chance they do it before November. I guess maybe, but maybe early November. Like, I don't think they're doing this over Thanksgiving and Christmas.
No, hell no. That's exactly why they're not going to do it that late in the year.
Yeah, but so my money is somewhere October-ish. That gives them 12 months effectively to get to that point. And like I said, they clearly have passed some sort of milestone where they think they're good to go for Alpha 2. But yeah, there's a lot we've not seen showcased yet that they say they're going to showcase. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think some of the stuff that they want to showcase might change from before Alpha to during Alpha.
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, we're going to show you this thing about this archetype that's coming, but we're not actually going to have it in for a couple more months. So teaser. Start thinking about your builds now. Start crafting your presets and everything. So you've got oh wait, it'll actually probably be a wipe when that comes around. Sorry. Hey everybody, there's probably going to be a wipe when we release this next character. So yeah, that's going to be the other part that's interesting to me is the player attrition rate over like wipes, DDoSes, and someone going in and putting little bags of 50,000 gold in people's pockets randomly, and then like, oh, well, the server economy just blew up. Great. So we're going to have to roll back the server. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
That totally happened.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to see how it ends up. Pantheon just went to 24/7 server. So,
oh, cool. Congrats to them.
It's testing, but we'll see how long people burn out. And they also just changed their art, but we are not in a Pantheon show. So
we can talk about that some, Theory Forge Friday on a Sunday or something.
But yeah, was anyone expecting Alpha 2 to be even a topic of consideration prior to the start of this? It threw me for a loop.
I think de facto it's been on everyone's bingo cards for the past few years. So, ever since Alpha 1, basically. So I think that one lonely, dusty stamp on the card finally got some action today.
I like how he referenced the 2030 date. I think that was Diggs that had asked him by 2030. And he just laughed. Didn't answer it. Now we have an answer. So excited. The other thing that they've talked about too, that I guess you'd have to think about is they want to do spot testing with 3 different groups. So PI, Alpha 1, and then Alpha 2. So they got a lot.
If anybody can confirm this, I thought I heard December, But then going back through the notes and trying to review it in the video, I couldn't hear December. So either I'm tripping or it's in there and I just need to re-listen to the right spot. If anybody gets the sorts on me, do give the timestamp. But I don't know when it's actually going to happen. It could, December would be an interesting time to do that. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably January, February, but
it's all under NDA.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing they very much emphasized. They're going to have Phoenix Initiative, they're going to have Alpha 1 testers, and they're going to have Alpha 2 group are all going to be in at potentially different times, different phases, maybe sometimes overlapping, but during part of the spot testing. And all of that is going to be under NDA. So that stuff, I would imagine there's going to be either a lot of really rough edges and a lot of stuff where it's just not, it's not going to look fun in how much everything's, beat down and having trouble, based on, the state of trying to get everybody in from everywhere and all the technical and netcode and everything and all the other issues that brings in. And then trying to optimize for each, group as they get larger and larger, as well as using the groups as a way to get feedback from people who've been around from the beginning, people who did Alpha 1, people who've never played that are, coming into it new as a player in Alpha 2 to get their sort of feedback without getting it tainted by other people playing at the time. So I can understand why they're sectioning it off and doing it like this. It's not like a preferential treatment thing so much as really making sure they get their ducks in a row before they get to the next group and the next group. But they did also clarify one thing. You don't have an Alpha 2 pack, but you had Alpha 1 access. You don't have Alpha 2 access. You have to have Alpha 2 in your inventory to be considered available to play Alpha 2. If you don't have the Alpha 2 item in your inventory, I don't know, maybe it's a friends and family thing, or you're a content creator, or some other cool and amazing way you got access to Alpha 1. Maybe you won it from something. That's totally cool. Maybe you had Alpha Access 1 and you forgot to put in your Kickstarter code or something, and that's where the rest of your stuff is from. Double check your stuff. Make sure you've got it in your inventory if you think you have Alpha 2 access. But if you only had access to Alpha 1 and you didn't ever buy a pack and you didn't get one gifted to you or whatever, I don't think they ever got that system working yet. But that is a requirement. That's part of the reason why I think the delaying the cutoff for the sales of this pack until January 17th is, really meant to give everybody that last amount of time and opportunity to get it in. It's, this many months you have to recycle cans and, shake down school kids or whatever you got to do to, get the money to be able to get that alpha pack before the 17th. Hopefully it's not either of those and you just get a big, birthday or holiday gift or something, or you just have enough disposable income to just go and buy it. But by whatever means, please, if you do shake down children, don't say you got the idea from this show. I don't endorse that whatsoever. It was just an example. It's a bad example. I am not a role model.
Well, exciting stuff. So finally, what was that, Luke Diggs? Not exciting?
It's a dev giving dates.
Do you think he would actually go past 2024?
There's always delays and you never trust dates. That's the first thing you learn as a dev.
Oh. I'm looking forward to
really
it.
Ready.
I can tell you I've been testing some things that I'm not super excited about, so I'm ready for something else. That's about all I'll say about that. For those who know what I've been doing, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I've been spending a lot of time in No Man's Sky and loving it, still enjoying the hell of it. But I'm ready for high fantasy MMORPG. So that being said, we can move on from Alpha 2. Events.
Now it makes me think of like putting Skyrim mods into Starfield just for the hell of it, trying to find a way to mash them in so you've got your swords and your frost giants and stuff on those random asteroids and stuff that you can't normally access. That would be great. Not as too much of an aside, but you just said like, going back to high fantasy, it's like, well, yeah, Starfield, you just need to throw some swords and some fantasy stuff up in there. Come on now. I know it's not the same engine, but
similar enough. Star Trek did that. You'd go to some worlds and they have swords and gods and all
that's
kinds
true.
of stuff. So.
That was always funny stuff. It's like, wait, we can't use our phasers here. It's against the Prime Directive. Wait, we shouldn't even be here. It's against the Prime Directive. What the hell are we doing here? Scotty, beam us the hell out.
I'm just ready for something new. Even the lore and all of that. I'm ready to jump into something. There's great games out there. Gosh, off the top of my head, Lord of the Rings Online's not a bad game. Neverwinter, not a bad game. There's some good MMORPGs out there. I'm ready for something different and new. So
I've been playing New World today. I got to 32. I'm on digs. I have a 46 level 46 character, but I'm pretty eager to jump into their expansion when it hits in a few days. And it was fun to play today.
I was going to ask if you've been having fun riding the wolf, but that isn't even released yet, huh?
That's right. That's right. I'm going to jump on a lion, I think.
That seems right for your character, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get away from NMS, I'll try to get into New World once this new thing comes out. But
yeah.
Is this their first paid expansion? Once again, try not to do too much of an aside here, folks, but yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to pay to get your mounts. Golly, ain't that corporate?
It's not too bad. How long has it been out? A couple of years? 2 years? That's not bad. I don't mind.
Well, we finally put mounts in everyone, but you got to buy them. No, I'll give beef for that. But that's just me being myself.
Well,
yep.
Yeah, I think, there's going to be so much speculation about Alpha 2, when Alpha 2, what Alpha 2, why Alpha 2, who Alpha 2, all of that. That's going to be, it's going to be the talk of the town here for a little bit among the Ashes community. And I think it's going to change the narrative a little bit from the, when is this thing happening? Is this even happening? Is this game even being made? To all right, hype train. It's gonna be what it's gonna be, and we don't know, but they said when they think it's gonna be, so let's see. But I'm pretty sure it's gonna be not just 2024, but a lot of 2024. I'm hoping more of 2024 is a testing period than not. Well, and once again, they don't need to have every feature in when they start getting the testing and stuff going. So, it can be very rough. There can be points where it seems stable for a bit, and it's like, all right, we're introducing these, 3 holdout features that are important before we can get to the next step of the process. And they broke everything. So help us figure out everything they broke, everybody, and report it real good. Because we have an inkling, but we can't find it all. I don't think it's going to be that. I hope it's not that bad, but, there's always room for things that work great in testing to run into a lot of problems when you put it in the hands of players. Golly, if there's anything we know how to do, it's break things intentionally or otherwise. It's my natural superpower is finding things that are broken. Been doing it since I was a little kid.
If they give us Apocalypse in December 2024. Technically, that could be an alpha too.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Do it on the 5.3 engine. Yeah, that would actually be that'd be pretty interesting. But I don't think that's.
Don't say that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've not even
don't
seen
think that-
PvP yet.
That was something I forgot to mention with this one. Yes, it is another thing that while they talk about PvP events and the possibility, you get no UI demonstration. You don't get the option. And when they even say about, hey, this guy here that's a problem, if he was a problem, we'll just, attack him and take him out. And it's like, no, well, actually, it doesn't work like that. You can't just do that. So it seems like this is a true PvE event that if Diggs walks up and sees the caravan and he joins and the interface only has a join the defenders and not a join the attackers, he clicks join the defenders because for some reason this poor wandering fella is, he takes pity on these even poorer folk that don't get to revive when they die. And, lends a hand in the event, whatever that may be, being next to naked and low level. And he'll get some participation. It might not be the greatest, but just being there and just being active and participating will count.
I mean, you could attack him. You just get corruption.
That's the thing is I don't actually know if even if you flagged as red, if you tried to attack them, if it would even work or not, or if you would just straight up get blocked. But yeah, I guess corruption. And then the other thing with corruption that still, begs the question, do enemies see that you're corrupted and not attack you? Or are you just being attacked by players and NPCs at that point?
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, somebody could request for them to showcase PvP. I think they can easily do that. PvP is like the easiest thing to do.
But why haven't they then?
Why would you?
Because it's like a central part of what they're trying to do.
It demonstrates PvP systems, but they're demonstrating other systems right now. And these other systems are easier to demonstrate as a PvE sort of thing.
I mean, I think just not much has changed PvP-wise yet in terms of sieges.
My opinion is it's because if they show PvP, there's going to be a question of corruption, and they don't have corruption done. So
that could be.
Yeah.
That could be.
Just pointing out there is still a whole lot of stuff to do. But the event system, so actually turned out to be pretty interesting. What general thoughts?
Well, my first thought is I loved the appearance of that tusked horse charger thing. That was pretty cool. I liked its animations. It was really nice.
Except the tail, that was a little funky.
I didn't pay attention to the tail. I'm looking at the tusks. I'm not afraid of what the tail is going to do to me.
Everybody was commenting on the tail because it appeared that they maybe didn't fully get the tail animated and rigged, so they went with one of two options, which is either you go with the T-pose tail on quadrupeds, which is just this erect thing sticking out and looks very inappropriate. And the other way is just a floppy dangly windsock. You just give it a skeleton, rigid body collider or whatever, and let the wind blow it. But Unreal Engine, both 4 and 5, happen to have a little funny thing that happens, you see, when you make the wind blow, but you just do like the default wind blowing sort of thing, is it makes things flop way too much in the direction. So the tail is basically like wrapping up and around and under and clipping in a also not very appropriate looking way. So not that part, but the rest of it. I liked seeing the cyber horse finally.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that stuff's just still too weird for me. But
magic.
How it just sort of sits there as he got off, like didn't go away, just kind of hung out. I don't know whatever happened to it.
that's a cool thing. They've been doing that a bunch of times in a bunch of the streams. It just hangs out with you. That's awesome.
So
just a hanger outer.
Better than it disappearing into your pocket.
Hey, I mean, it's kind of nice to have it maybe follow along at a distance if you wanted it to, but I don't know if they've got everything set up to be able to do that sort of thing quite yet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm reading chat. It's very true. 3 classes have been shown. What about the rest? That's all fair points. Go ahead.
So they had 8 people eventually in their raid in this demo. Was it just 3 archetypes? I was trying to look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I couldn't really tell. I didn't see a lot of different stuff going on there.
They had 1 healer and I would say several mages because the first 4 had 2 casters. So
I know Amy was saying she was a healer, but I thought I saw 2 more healers in the add-on group. I might be mistaken. They needed healers though. They lost 2 settlers. Scotty went down early.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also very curious about how they got to 8, since that.
I can tell you. So they had the 4. The event started, and then somebody that was part of the other party came bounding over the hills, where he killed the archer that was off on the side. There was another archer, and I think a caster, or maybe a third archer even. When he turned around after killing 1 archer, you can see the other people start bounding down the hill, and immediately see it click over from 4 to 8 when the person clicks accept and joins as a party. And that's the exact time that you see the event switch over to veteran difficulty.
Well, let me back up a little bit. I wasn't necessarily referring to actually where they came from, but more so the idea that they were in a raid. And what is the group size supposed to be? Just a typical group? 8.
Right.
8 is
right.
8 is what they brought for this.
It's
Yes.
8.
No, 8 is supposed to be the typical group size. You're supposed
That's
to
a
be
party, not a
wandering
raid.
around.
Well, they got formed into a raid.
That's what he's saying. Phantom is saying that the typical group is supposed to be 8 players. So it's interesting that they refer to this as a raid because it's only 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they're saying is that it is mechanically treated as a free invite raid group, that as people join the event, they have the option to join the defenders, which in doing so tax them on to the raid group automatically. It is not a raid group that the first people who showed up are the leaders of. It is a forced group loot with the mandatory, if you participated, you get experience, you get gold. I believe if you win, I don't know if you get that when you lose, probably experience, not the gold. And then you have to access the loot chest or speak to the NPC who gives the loot in order to get the item that's droppable off your body, part of the rewards from it. Those will scale based on how long, how well you participated, your activity, and that sort of stuff. So if you just show up and go AFK, you might not get anything. But if you were there from the start and were active the whole time, even if you didn't do a great job, it's not a DPS meter that you're being rated on. It's just being there and participating.
So what Phantom is saying is that they specifically said that the difficulty went from group level difficulty to raid level difficulty. And that's not a raid. 8 is a group. That's supposed to be your default group is 8.
I just thought the numbers were interesting that they had 8 players when that is a group size.
Now, they might have misspoke on that too, but the other possibility is that there were more than 8, but they don't have the interface set up right now to demonstrate 9+ players. And so we only saw a standard party-sized 8 because the new UI for a raid group didn't initiate, or maybe doesn't initiate until you've got, some other threshold. Then I don't know why it wouldn't be 9.
I mean,
It was just interesting.
yeah, I'm not
Sounds
saying anything
interesting
bad by it. I'm just pointing out it just seemed just an interesting observation is all. How many were there for Tumuk? Tumok? How many? That was a raid too, right?
That's a good question. I think that was a more substantial raid than 8. I think most of the time they've said raid, they've actually sent like a pretty hefty group. So I kind of think maybe the use of the word raid here might have been them misspeaking, or might have just been the wires being crossed with, it is mechanically a raid, but it is technically still a party-sized amount of players. And so it is mechanically a raid part is why they were calling it a raid, not that it's, a 40 size, group sort of content.
Yeah, so it's 16.
They said it went up from group to raid level difficulty. So that's not necessarily 40, but it should not be 8 because
Flashed veteran across the screen, veteran level.
Yeah, that was when 8 appeared. Yeah, and what veteran meant was that all the enemies now switch to being elites instead of normal enemies, which is nice because they actually said there's a lot of ways that the enemies can change. It can be, and potentially this could be more than just enemies. It could even be like puzzles or other things, depending on what the event is. But instead of just turning them to elite, they can throw more enemies, for example, which I could see if it's a lot of lower level players that have stumbled upon an event in a higher level area. Instead of murdering them with a bunch of higher level enemies, you send a lot more lower level enemies so they can still fight these things. But the more higher level players that join the event, they can just send that many more of the lower level enemies in response. So instead of switching them from normal enemies to elite enemies, and or bumping their level up from like level 20 to level 40 that the area would actually normally have, that you're just throwing way more level 20 enemies out there. And they also said that it's not just the numbers that they can change, but their tactics. They might behave differently. They might use abilities in different ways, or in ways that you don't normally expect, that are like really good synergies, and they're really cooking you with all of the elemental overloads and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the stuff that's very interesting. It goes back to something a Dungeon Master, D&D person had told me about many years ago, that the way that it was dealt with for players coming in with all the magic gear and all the best stuff and all the potions and everything is to throw hundreds upon hundreds of kobolds at them at the start, not as a battle that they would quickly wipe through, but all of them come in and steal an item and run out through the cracks. And just through this process, they go from coming in fully well equipped to basically anything you physically couldn't just yank off their body is all that they got left. And so I think about that as like an extrapolation of tactics, throwing 1,000 little things that do something annoying to you until you're overwhelmed and left at a disadvantage. So there's a lot of ways they can adjust the difficulty that I can think of. There's probably plenty of ways I can't think of or haven't yet that they've thought of on their side.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they said they wouldn't change. There would be no scaling. So you as a player wouldn't scale in level or damage, same as the enemy would not scale in its output as well. So there's going to be some very interesting interactions that we get to explore in Alpha 2. If you're in a group of 8 people that are level 20 and here comes a level 20, 30, Like, how does that change things? I mean, the positive, I guess, would be is if they can help you clear it out really quick because they're a higher level. That's great. But then the reward system, they've also commented they're not really sure how they're going to do that. So is it going to be time based? How percentage of time you were involved? Is it going to be damage output? My guess is ends up a mix of it all.
Much time. Yeah, part of it is how much time.
I would imagine is definitely a multi-axial sort of thing that if you've got enough bars to enough levels, you count as having had the highest level of participation. So it might not be, you have to hit 10,000 damage, otherwise you don't get the reward. It could be that between all the damage you deal and all the healing that you put in, and the amount of time that you've got enemies debuffed and CC'd and all the other, where your position relative to where the objective is at and where the enemies are at and all that sort of stuff, they can have all of that stuff built in over time if they don't have it already. So they can choose a variety of features from which to pull the stuff. And then the other thing is they give examples of non-combat stuff. Going to a funeral, like you attend, you open the book, you read the pages, you click the part where you say the prayer when everyone says the prayer. You stand up when they stand up, you sit down when they sit down, you drink the wine when the wine's passed around, and for 20 minutes you're engrossed in part of Varan culture, that one of the local communities and their rituals to honor someone that died. That's great. That is a giant RP opportunity. And while you're probably not going to be getting the same kind of rewards that the caravan event would give because it's a much lower risk, it's something that allows players to engage in the game in a way that feels like you're actually part of the game in the game world and being rewarded for participating. Likewise, I would imagine you go to the funeral, you sit down, you put the hat on, you get the book out, you say one line, but instead of it being the prayer, it's, I fart on your grave, and you step up and walk out of the place. You might get some negative rep for that. You might have upset the entire ceremony and something bad happens.
What happens if they kill you? What happens if somebody kills you?
Your funeral.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess so.
No, I mean, if I'm trying to drink the wine and Phantom comes up and kills me, I don't get to drink the wine. So then
you will have interrupted in the ceremony. And then I don't know.
I took your wine.
Well, did both of us interrupt the ceremony?
Well, he was trying to drink the wine.
I was trying to drink the wine. Phantom killed me.
He killed you. Phantom no, you. Yeah. He interrupted.
So both of us interrupt because I didn't get to finish what I was doing, and it wasn't necessarily my fault, but still.
Well, I'd imagine there'd be like a little, maybe 2-minute timer or some little window to do each of the ritual processes. So you got your wine, there's a 2-minute cooldown, you die. I don't know if somebody being attacked during the ceremony doesn't bring the ceremony to a complete halt until the attacker is dealt with, or if the guards pull an Ultima online and they just teleport behind them and hit them at the back of the head with a halberd and kill them. What's going to be done to deal with that? How did they get in to do that? Was he part of the ceremony? Did he come to attend the ceremony but didn't click the flag button to attend the ceremony? So he's sitting there as a neutral party that can flag and go red. That's these are the things. These are the questions. But you're right to bring that up. To bring violence to a non-violent event, it's going to happen. Every time they try to do weddings and EQ and Ultima Online, there's always the chance that, it would get ruined by a bunch of trolls that, do naughty things with the emote system.
What I think is pretty cool is that there's also a cooldown.
I'm seeing F's in chat, so obviously if you're recording on your side, we'll just keep going and pretend that didn't happen, but there might be some issues.
Yeah, my thing froze.
Anyway, let's just talk through it.
For the stream.
Yeah, we're good.
Anyway.
I was just about to say,
Now we're back.
oh, I see. Yeah, Twitch is. It's not me. I have no no drop frames, so that's a Twitch problem.
Well, there we go. So the upload will be perfect, everybody. So don't worry about that part. You'll actually get to miss the little, or you catch the little dialogue we said trying to talk while trying to determine, if those F's in chat were real or not. But now that we're back, events. Puzzle events. That one sounds great. Oh man, Diggs, that's like totally your thing right there. An event you go to where you've got to solve a puzzle. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be like an escape room or what.
It seemed, well, even the funeral is perfect for my ultimate Care Bear challenge, unless people kill me in the middle of it, and then it's over by the time I get back to it. But we'll have to see what happens. No, that's kind of cool. Different kinds of events. That's interesting.
Well, I hope there's a lot. I mean,
Oh, the spawning of the events that I want to actually reserve for next episode, because this is starting to get into the big stuff, the real big deal sort of stuff of like how the event system is going to make things dynamic in a big way. This is the thing I've been waiting for since Story Bricks, since the tag system and Revival, since the attempt to revive the tag system and Chronicles of Illyria, since like probably even before, not even looking at MUDs, just basically how are you going to get something as dynamic and interesting and intriguing as having a dungeon master that's able to cater to thousands of players in a living, breathing world all at once autonomously, and is able to deal with their backtalk and their guff and them going and walking away and having a snack and using the bathroom and getting calls from their girlfriend and stuff like that. Like, how are you going to automate all of that? And this is getting closer to that answer that I think, MMO fans have really been waiting for. The meow, the next evolution here, to really have the world as its own character or set of characters.
So talk about that some more. What did you see showcased? What did they say that is hyping you for this?
Well, like I said, this could be an entire episode's worth of stuff. In fact, I didn't realize until like 2 or 3 hours later just how long it was taking me to go through and review the entire episode for all of that data. And I'm going to have to make my Discord here ultra wide so I can read it easier, because there's a lot.
Well, so let's maybe try to save that. But one of the things that they talked about was just even going up to the, I don't know, I'm going to segue, because even killing the spiders was kind of fun. That little fight, even before they got to the caravan event, was pretty cool. What did you guys think of the combat? Were you okay with the combat? Did the combat seem boring? Did it seem like it was not engaging enough? How did you feel about the combat that we saw?
It seemed cohesive. It seemed like all the stuff we've seen in the demos so far plays out in the field. So that's cool.
How about them working together?
That part I was maybe having a little bit of a hard time tracking. The range of those archers, those longbows, that was great. They actually had a good position up at a good vantage point. And the idea that enemies can be at a vantage point like that, and you attack them from the ground, and they don't just go immune, and then run back to their leash point a mile away. That's beautiful. Holy hell. We have not had that in MMOs in a big way, or even like non-MMOs I've been starting to see using those sorts of tactics and methods. So I'm really glad to see that. They've got range. They can move. They can get around. They can take a vantage point and attack you from it, which for me, my big thing, mobility, that means I can get at a good vantage point and attack other things. Because going rogue ranger or ranger rogue, my whole point is being able to get up on, high places, high surfaces, use mobility, start shooting down at things. They think they're going to finally start climbing up to get at me. Great. Use like a grappling hook to swing across or get to a different platform. Keep raining down on them. That's the way I want to play the game. That's the sort of thing that interests me. So the fact that you can have enemies fighting up from a high vantage point like that, and they don't just go wacky, that's nice. That's good.
Yeah, the combat looked okay. It was messy. As someone, as was pointed out, I'm sorry, I'm going back to see, RS Blendon pointed out in chat, tanks need to have more of a grouping ability. Things were just sort of running around everywhere. I was commenting, it was like Steven was not helping the situation. It was hilarious watching, like they had just talked about Corvin the Crusher and he's the boss, and they play for 2 minutes and all of a sudden Steven goes, "Oh, Corvin the Crusher, cool." It's like, well, they had already talked about that. Like,
yeah,
it's clearly
I saw that
he
had been targeting Corvin's Corvid, the bird that when the battle first started going in that final phase, I heard someone say, "I love these birds."
I love that he has fun doing this. It's so fun to watch him because he's enjoying this. But even then, they had to point out, we have to kill Corvin. Things will keep spawning until we kill Corvin, and so then he starts killing Corvin. The combat looked okay for alpha. I mean, it looked messy. I don't know. The AOEs didn't seem to be that great. Of course, I'm used to. Not that I enjoy it, but used to the whole World of Warcraft, just AOE and everything down. The event itself, it was fine. It wasn't like anything for me super new or revolutionary. I mean, these sorts of events have occurred in other games already, with changes as you add more people and sort of dynamic processes. I always talk about Warhammer Online.
Yeah, but a lot of the things that Ashes of Creation provides is not supposed to be super innovative. How they do it is what's supposed to be innovative, how they place everything together. And what I liked that we heard going in is that the triggers for them are not going to be just in World of Warcraft. It's just a timer, basically. There's not really any other trigger other than time. So very repetitive. What I like about what we heard going in is that, they killed a variety of things. It could be because you harvest a variety of things. And in that location, there could be a different event based on what you did in that area. So that's the part is that, you could even try and re-trigger, and it might not re-trigger because you have to meet some other stuff. So you might think that you have to kill 15 spiders because that's what you did last time, and that's not actually what the trigger is for the next event. So where I get really excited about all this is not necessarily individual events. I'm happy there's going to be several of them, different types, because I think that could get very old kind of quickly if it's just sort of the same type of event, just a different area and different type of mob. The fact that they have different just different events is going to be good. But no, where I got really excited, because we talked about this last week, I was concerned, is this going to be like a World of Warcraft World Quest system where you really don't, it spawns, things kind of happen, but it doesn't really change anything. Hearing them talk about how much all of this just connects to each other, the story arc system, all of that is just really, I think, cool. That's where it's going to get really fun, where failure matters. If you don't address things, even in this system, that's what can then lead to story arc changes, which are the of course, bigger processes in the game. So I absolutely love that they're all tied together. I'm very curious to see how a lot of this kind of comes to be. They even mentioned, I got kind of excited because they mentioned one of the predicates being, I tried to count up how many times they said predicate because I make fun of that and I lost track. It was a lot. One of the predicates, though, that could be is resource. I've talked about this
idea of creating a guild where if you've been slighted by the node, hire us and we will go cut down every tree and just delete it. But how that could even trigger some sort of event. And where the next step that I take that to is if it's a player driven change, like resource gathering, does it turn into a PvP type event? Because they also did briefly comment on those. Of course, that would all be voluntary, but so yeah, I agree. I love how all this sort of ties in together. I think that's where this gets really interesting.
Yeah, this is the part where I kind of saw it work together. Was you have a story arc in motion, you have nodes that have trade relations. That leads to the opportunity for player activity to start any sort of event. In this case, the event manifested in killing enough creatures in the area, and that player activity spawned that fancy bear. That fancy bear, they called it out that here's the big bear. When they killed it, you see the little message on the screen, the UI toast, the Chiron, saying that the event started. As soon as that elite bear dies, that event begins. So that's predicate on predicate on predicate on predicate, finally launching into the caravan system, which all is intended for players who are actively playing in an area to have something to first participate in and group up with other people if they aren't, and second, to be directed to the story arcs and what's going on with those. So if there's an arc going on in an area that you weren't aware of because you haven't been there for a while, that is going to lead you to it if you're successful. That's a big deal. That's stuff right there that it might just look like there was just some combat event. Yeah, as it's on its own, it was just kind of, a standard sort of combat event. Fortunately, you didn't have to escort anybody anywhere. The settlers basically stayed there and took their beating. So to that extent, it, very standard, straightforward sort of thing. It had a little bit of waves, had a little bit of stuff. It's the sort of thing that, I wouldn't be surprised to have seen in any other MMO. But it's not that battle. It's all of the before and all of the after, and all of what it means and what it means if you fail. That's the part that makes it interesting.
So I was a little...
That battle is just a battle.
I was confused a little bit on how this started, right? Because they killed some animals, and all of a sudden, all of these what were they, bandits or whatever?
Bandits.
Came running out of caravan. It's like, okay, well, is that because they didn't want to fight the spiders and you did, so now they can come out? Like, that connection was a little weird for me, but I get that they were just trying to show you how this works. Because even afterwards, Steven was like, he actually said, well, this was a caravan. This node and another node established a trade relation, and somehow it's related to the caravan. So it was a weird series of sort of stuff, but. But yeah, it's exciting. It's neat to see how this all works. I wish they could do.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I wish they could somehow run a simulation and show us, and just show us the change, right? Like, just do a sim of it, and just show the node change over time would be really fun to see.
That reminds me of the Get the Core Forest demo from EverQuest Next. Let's see. What I like about it is that we get different stories. Again, it's not just the one individual event. It's that in that area, we should get different types. So just going through, even if it's just that a few weeks ago, it was the highwaymen bandits at that ruins, and on my way back through, it ends up being kobolds or goblins or something else, because something else has taken over those ruins, and might give me a reason to go explore those ruins and see what's going on over there and why there's something different over there. So just story wise, these complex triggers should be very rewarding for gameplay.
Definitely.
Yeah, we went down again.
They emphasize though, and it's one of the things that I really like is that every server will essentially be completely different in the same location at any given time. That all of the events, the states, the momentum, what's built up, what's not, who's where, who's doing what where, how bad things, how many times the place has failed in different ways and what that's led to, how many times things have succeeded in what ways and what that's led to. It's going to make so much change that there's absolutely no way you're just going to look something up on a wiki and be like, hey, how do I do this? Why do I make this happen? It might be that there's a puzzle that has limited enough steps that once somebody is found at once, you can kind of start piecing it together. And then as you find versions of that puzzle, there's different permutations and variants and stuff. But eventually you kind of find all of the parts and pieces and stuff. And it's something that's kind of knowable player knowledge. Okay, that's fine. So as, new content is being developed and cycled in, those puzzles can start being cycled out. And then when you see it again a couple of years later, it's like, oh, I remember those puzzles. Gee, how do you do those things again? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's really fun. That'll be interesting to see.
I also like how
Riverlands. You wrote in chat, Riverlands. Why was that a nope?
That's all we've seen. I don't know. I want to see other stuff. Like everything has been the exact. I think they even said like, oh, well, this time we're in between, like where we were here and where we were here.
Yeah, and Winstead. Yeah.
I would really like to see more than Riverlands, and I don't think that's asking too much. That's not like a lore drop. That's I understand hiding the lore, but we know that these biomes are supposed to exist, so why not? I would like to see more than Riverlands. That's all.
Yeah, I think we're not going to see much more, but it'll be nice to even see how seasons will affect. So,
and I liked at the end how they were able to go to the NPC and like that directed them too. So if you were unaware of a story arc that was occurring in that area, sort of directs you to that area. Was nice to see. So very excited about all this. I'm just ready to start testing. There was one thing, and I wish I could get some answers. I wish I knew someone that knew the lore a little bit that didn't have to not say anything. But there was one of the NPCs commented on how they wish they had left all of the fighting and all of the stealing and all of that and Sanctus. And I thought that was very interesting. Because I've always envisioned Sanctus as this, that's where the goddess sent everyone to get away, as some sort of idealized world, free of magic, but still somewhat idealized. But it sounds like Sanctus was not at all a fun place to be. And we still don't know why we came back through the portals. So I'm curious how all of this is connected, if it just sort of devolved into...
We came back through the portals because they're open, and now we can return back to the land.
But we don't know why they opened. Like, we don't know the story behind that. Like, whether there was an intention, unintention, like, did something wrong happen, something positive happen? All we know is they opened.
The positive thing is that Vera is now safe enough for us to return. Yes, safe enough for us to return.
It's safe enough for us to return, but we still have a lot of work to do, and it's on us to fix it.
My original point was I'm very curious about Sanctus now, and why that sort of comment was made about what it was like there. Would love for that to be an expansion sometime later, but as has been pointed out to me, there is no magic, so what would we do there? Your fighters could fight, but nobody else could do anything. So,
well, you can do other things. Just you wouldn't really be able to magic much. The one thing also that an NPC says, praise Auriok. That, if anybody doesn't know, that was a king from like Genesis, from the Bible. So like Come on now. Let's cut the crap with that. I mean, again, it's okay for throwaway stuff. It's totally fine for stuff that we're not actually keeping for live, but that name's got to be gone for live, because come on now. You can do better than that.
Yeah, I googled
Don't
that.
be a tassel worm.
That name has shown up a lot of different places. So I think was it Milton, Paradise Lost too. But I don't know. That gets me into PAX Day and some of their really fun.
Yeah, you know, that was
stuff.
the other thing that made me think of, was like, that's more of a PAX Day sort of thing.
Well, we are actually over, and Twitch keeps kind of dropping. So, anything that y'all want to continue to bring up? Anything else notes wise? Oh, I did want to mention the VEC there and the art part. Looked really cool. I was very confused by the fact that their plate armor covered almost nothing. Like they had big areas of skin just like wide open. It's like, how is this plate armor?
It's the big areas of skin, and then the also big areas of thin leather with basically jewelry chain that's not going to stop anything, you know, whatsoever. It'll stop you from getting a bruise if you like accidentally back into like a sharp corner of a desk or something, but little else. It does not look to me, if they're talking about shape language and silhouettes and visibility and stuff, that's a medium armor. I see that in the distance. That's medium.
Yeah.
That amount of skin with little bit of plating, that conveys as medium to me.
I just had an issue with it being called plate armor, and you could. It was just, I don't know. It's weird, but that's fine. Maybe we'll learn more about why that is. So,
plate armor to me is, you know, thinking to the real world context of it. It's a dude that's basically bolted and riveted into this steel can of a set of articulated armor they can't even get out of. Back in the day, you wouldn't kill the knight because they're noble and they're worth a ransom. You'd get them working real hard till they overheat and pass out, and you drag their dumb ass away, and then you ransom them later. You might not even take their armor off. So that's, to go from that is full plate. That is full heavy plate. You just walk up to that person and hit them with a stick, or you hit them with a sharp stick. Unless you get them real good and like the eye hole real hard, and it's a real specific stick, probably not going to do much to them. Things are really damn tough. So that's the part I go from that to depictions of plate and heavy armor in games and stuff. It's like, okay, I could see like the full half plate sort of thing, where you've got like the mask, and you've got the shoulders, and like a breastplate, like a full-on chest breastplate, and maybe like some gauntlets or some bracers going, and maybe like the knee-length skirt, or like some, you know, high metal boots, and like some steel shorts, basically. You know, I could see that. I could see that, but not, you know, what we see there. It looks to me like medium. Everyone in chat, I'm not going to say everyone, I don't speak for everyone, but a lot of people in chat were saying that looks like medium armor, not heavy, when that first showed. So I know I'm not alone in this.
Yeah, I should have brought this up.
It's called VEC plate, though, so that might not be the same thing as heavy armor. It's just VEC plate, and they just put plate wherever they put it.
That's true. And they said that's gameplay earnable. That's not from a skin pack.
Yeah. But I'm curious to see if that plate has more armor when you put it on a Kalar or an elf.
Maybe.
Like, does it cover more? Does it cover more? Because it's going to change based on who's wearing it, right?
The way it looks, it'd be great on a Nakua for sure.
I was going to say, how does it look on a Nakua? So that's going to be the interesting thing, is going to see how all this stuff changes when you put it on different races. Because I think what we saw before looked very different. It was like, that's the same armor set. So we'll see.
Well, All right, we still got all the questions to get through for next. Oh, actually, so a little bit. We will not be here next week, and most likely the week after that, we will see. That might end up being a PAX Day stream. We'll see. PAX Day. We've started a show for those who are interested in it. We've only done a couple episodes, so we're trying to get into the swing of things, and they've released some interesting stuff that I don't necessarily like. So I think it's time to do a show about it. So, but yeah, everyone have a great week. We will be back here in 2 weeks. We'll try to communicate, I guess, in Discord probably what show will come when we come back. But yeah, for those of you who are new to us, just found us, join our Discord. We chat a lot about stuff, a lot of different games, not just Ashes. I think we have like 10 or 12 different subcategories for games, and we all like to play a little bit of different stuff too. So thanks for hanging out, and yeah, we will see you back here in 2 weeks. See ya.
Later, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.